Here, back with our latest weekend preview. Delighted this week to be joined by Jack Keene of Sun Racing and Templegate, aka Steve Mullen of the Sun, to discuss the weekend's action, which, to be fair, is probably pretty mediocre compared to the stuff we've had recently, but it's nevertheless very interesting nonetheless. First up, guys, let's start with the Dick Hearn Stakes listed race of fillies and mares over the mile trip. Let's start with you. We've got Voracious, obviously a very short price favourite here. Has very good form at Group 1 level, dropping back in trip here. Obviously, first start of the season after a wind-up. Do you think she's the one to beat?
In a nutshell, yes. Obviously, the price of Freckstart, I think, is trading around 4 to 6. But this is a horse that normally does a race in a Group 1 level. Coming down to a listed race here, hasn't done that for a while. The only thing is that would possibly put you off taking the price is coming back from a break. But she's had a wind operation over the interim period, so she could actually come back stronger, given that she used to wear a tongue tie and still does, I think, actually. Looking at what might beat her, Final Song's been going okay, and in a normal listed race, you'd think that one would have a good chance, given fourth in the 1,000 guineas as well. Got Frankie on Farzine as well. That's another one that's more than capable of winning a normal listed race, but Voracious being in there means this isn't really a normal listed race.
Absolutely. Jack, would you agree with that? Not really a normal listed race with Voracious in there?
Yeah, well, Group 1 winner without a penalty, and she's obviously the class beast in the race. I mean, she's not my kind of price, but even if she's kind of 80-90% fit, she'll take a lot of beating. I mean, it's interesting, like she wears a tongue tie and she's had a wind up, so you kind of just wonder if she had a bit of trouble with her wind. Or I mean, so Michael Stout's had been ripping up trees this season, but having said that, she's up against fillies who are kind of smart handicappers, maybe listed class. There's nothing in there really that should cause her too much trouble. So it'd be a surprise if she gets turned over. I'll be happy to watch. To be honest, if there was one that could maybe cause her one or two problems, Final Song's not a bad filly. She's back against her sex now, and the sounder surface I think is going to suit her. But I think Voracious would be very hard to beat.
Yeah, all three of us then with Voracious. I agree with you. I think she got that form of the Falmouth win last year. 2 years ago, last year, beating One Master. That form looks sensationally strong in this kind of context. So yeah, I think she'd be very hard to beat. Farzine would be my one of the outsiders under Frankie. I thought she ran quite a good race last time. Didn't get a clear run that day, and hopefully we'll get a cleaner patches through now. But they're going to have to go some, I think, to catch Voracious. Okay, now on to the 240, the Rose of Lancaster Stakes Group 3, over a mile and a quarter. Another odds-on favourite here as we record, which is Global Giant for John Gosden and Frankie Dettori, who won the Steventon Stakes really nicely last time out. Beat a couple of these that day, including Extra Elusive and Foxtel, who were further behind. And then we've also got Zaki stepping up from a mile. Jack, start with you here. Who do you fancy in this? You think the favourite's the one to beat?
Yeah, he's definitely the one to beat. I was a bit disappointed there's only 7 runners from a kind of each-way perspective, because I thought Certain Lads, he ran a real cracker in the John Smith's Cup the other day, and the front two pulled quite a long way clear. So, I mean, if there were 8, I would have thought it would have been a very good each-way bet. But yeah, Global Giant's going the right way. I thought Frankie gave him a really good ride at Newbury, actually, because you could see there wasn't much pace on. He kind of wound him up quite early in the straight and got him into a good position. Probably caught Extra Elusive, kind of done him for a bit of toe at a crucial stage of the race, really. So he's definitely the one to beat. My main worry here is there's not much pace in the race. I think all of them are kind of hold-up performers. So again, it could be quite muddling. I might still just take a chance on Certain Lad. He's had good form this year. He seems to be going the right way. So, I mean, he's a decent price. I might take on the favourite with him. But much like the race before we've just talked about, I think the favourite's going to be quite hard to beat here.
Nice price selection there from Jack. Steve, what do you fancy in this? The favourite as well?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Jack was saying about Certain Lad, and that horse won a listed race as a 2-year-old, so maybe it's just taken a little while to get back to that kind of level, and that was a really good run at York. But yeah, it's hard to see Global Giant being turned over, given that he's beaten a few of these already recently. Good thing about Haydock is that it will be a muddling pace, but it's quite a long straight, isn't it? So there's a bit of time to wind up and get going. And you don't normally say it about a 5-year-old, but because he hasn't been with John Gosden that long, he's probably progressing still. So you try to find something to beat an even money at 10 to 11 favourite, don't you? But sometimes you think, well, I can't really see it. Extra Elusive is probably the second best horse in the race, but he's been beaten last time, and the race will probably pan out similar. Saki coming to, chased out Mo Hatha in the summer mile, was third in this a couple of years ago, but hasn't ever really seemed at home over this trip. So it's hard to see anything beating Global Giant, really, despite the odds.
Yep, I would wholeheartedly agree. I quite like Extra Elusive with Holly Doyle now in the saddle. Hopefully she can conjure up some sort of withering late run, but I think Extra Elusive will probably confirm those placings as well. Sorry, the Jim Gosden Wars. On now to Newmarket. 320, we've got the Betway Sweet Solaris Stakes, Group 3, always a very good pointer to the future, this contest. And we get to see the very exciting Fly Miss Helen again, who is such an impressive winner on debut. She's a pretty short price favourite. Another one, we've got three races so far, 3 short price favourites. Wouldn't be a surprise if all of them won. But she's got to take on a few interesting types, like Spirited Bermuda, who won at Goodwood last week, Satahi, Dubai Fancy, who both ran at Sandown last time, and of course Danilova, who won at Newmarket. Steve, where's your eye drawn to in this race?
Danilova's the one I like in this. I mean, it's a cracking race. There's several of really nice types in it. Fly Miss Helen, that was obviously very impressive at Newbury, and the horse that was second that day ran well at Goodwood as well. So that form's decent, but this is a much hotter competition, and she needs to progress again. I just think Danilova, the way picked up well at where was it last time? I'm trying to remember.
Newmarket, yeah.
Newmarket, that's it. Last time, had plenty in hand. The time was decent, and I think there's more to come from it. You've got Satahi in there as well, who's been running well, ran well in the Albany Stakes, I seem to remember. And Spirit and Bermuda, I thought, ran well as well at Goodwood last week. Could be a big price, a bigger price at least. But I think Danilova's got a lot of scope to improve. The yard's still going well, and I think around 5-1 looks a very fair price to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Actually, Danilova is my selection too. I think she's got a big chance on that Newmarket win. She looks very straightforward as well, which I quite like. Yes, you'll have to improve a little bit, but I expect her to after just 2 starts, and I'd be keen on her to take on the favourite in this race. What about you, Jack? What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's probably a race I will just watch, to be honest. It's going to be very informative. Like you both said, Fly Miss Helen's got a big reputation. She was really well punted on that debut. I think she was like 16s into 11-4 or something like that. So they obviously knew they had something useful on their hands. Straight after the race, Richard Hannon said, the long-term aim is going to be the Moyglare or something like that. So they obviously think she's up to that kind of level. She's going to be very interesting to watch her, but yeah, she's very short. Dubai Fountain, she could be a bit of a pace angle in here, and she ran well. She was just ahead of Satahi at Sandown. I actually thought, to be honest, Satahi could turn the tables on her because she kind of made a rapid move out wide and then just ran out of gas a little bit. And I think if they just play Satahi a bit later, I think she's got a decent bit of form in the book, and she could be a bit of value here. But to be honest, I'm probably going to watch, but I'll be cheering on Satahi at a decent price, I think.
Lovely stuff. Satahi and the Sweet Solera for Jack then. Moving on now to, there are a couple of handicaps at Ascot this weekend. Well, there are a few of them actually, but there's 2 ones that stand out in terms of both quality and in terms of future races. And they are the Millennium Millionaire Handicap, which is at 3 o'clock over 2 miles. This is only drawn 11 runners, but it's still a pretty competitive race, with Australis heading the market for Roger Varian and David Egan, having finished second to Caravan of Hope in the Betfair Northumberland Plate last time out. We've also got the likes of Holy Kingdom for Tom Clubber, who's a real up-and-coming trainer, doing very well this season. Kallur for David Manouzier, he's having a cracking season as well. Red Force One down the bottom for Paul Nichols, and a few others. Steve, where's your eye drawn to in this?
Kallur, I've gone for in this. I think it was more than a little bit unlucky last time at Sandown. Was coming quite strongly, got knocked sideways, and in those long distance races, once that happens, they struggle, and did really well to keep going. To get third, not had many runs for Mr. Manouzier, who's an excellent trainer, and it's good to see him going up in distance from what I think is a fair handicap mark. Again, around, at the time of recording, around 5-1. Seems very fair. I mean, Australis seems a bit short for me. I've seen 2-1 and things like that. For a horse that's never won on turf, albeit he hasn't had that many goals on it, and it was a really good run in the Northumberland Plate, but you're always a bit worried about how the all-weather form will go back on the turf. And I think at a bigger price, Eddie Stone Rock, because he just likes Ascot, and Ascot's a specialist track, and Kieran Fallon's on there. I think they could outrun their price, but Kallur's the one for me.
Great. Kallur for Steve there. Jack, what about you?
Yeah, I quite like Kallur as well. He's steadily progressive. Like you say, he was a bit unlucky at Sandown last time. Step up to 2 miles, I think it's going to suit him. And David Manouzier is a fantastic trainer, so he's definitely a trainer to follow for me. Australis agreed, maybe a tad short, £6 higher, but I mean, he's still unexposed over these kind of trips, so it wouldn't be a surprise to see him run a huge race. I think Holy Kingdom is too soon to write him off, to be honest, because he was on a bit of a roll. He didn't stand much chance at Newmarket last time. He was out the back, and it was kind of a bit of a muddling race. He didn't really ever get a chance to land a blow. So, to be honest, if I was to have to pick one, I'd probably go for Holy Kingdom. I think he's a decent price. And exactly like Steve said, Eddystone Rock, he's only £1 higher than the mark he carried to victory at York last year, and he's 1-from-1 over course and distance. So those would probably be my two to keep an eye on at decent-ish prices. But if I was to pick one, I'd go for Holy Kingdom, I think. Great
stuff. A couple of shouts there for Eddystone Rock with Kieran Fallon in the saddle. I'm going to stick my neck out and go for another outsider, actually, and called Diocletian for Andrew Balding. This horse has had excuses in both his starts so far this season. At Ascot, he was too keen over too long a trip. That was over 2.5 miles. Didn't get home that day, and he was having his reappearance run. And then went 6th last time. He missed the break by about 4 or 5 lengths and could never get into it, despite the fact that he travelled well. And he was sent off clear that day, so I think he's got a bit more to come. And hopefully under a Shea Murphy at about 14-1 mark, he's got a big chance each way. Finally, lads, we're on to the 3:35, the Thames Hospice Handicap, over 1.5 miles. A few in this who look pretty unexposed. The likes of Look Closely, Jeremiah, who won last time out with Charlie Fellows, Haydock, who's bidding to really kind of resurrect his career slightly. Spanish Archer at the top of the weights for James Fanshawe, and then Fox Vardy and a few others down the bottom, including Omni Vega for David Simcock. Jack, what's your take on the race?
Yeah, I really like the look of this race. I had a good look at it earlier in the week. I think I'm going to be taking on Look Closely at the head of the betting. He got a soft lead when he won here the other day. And the sectionals backed that up. They went a real slow gallop, and he just basically quickened up. £8 higher now in a better race, in my opinion. There's a lot of smart horses in here. I think Jeremiah is probably the one to beat. I was impressed with him winning a decent race here last time. He travelled like an absolute dream. He did get the splits, admittedly, but then he picked off what I think is a well-handicapped horse in Sam Cook, and he won by a nose. They pulled quite a long way clear. But just behind him was Coman for Mick Shannon, and he's about a 16-1 chance. I quite fancy him each way. That was his first run for quite a while, so he'll be a good deal sharper now. He had quite a wide trip that day. So I think he could get a bit close to Jeremiah, maybe reverse the form of that run under his belt at an each-way price. And another at a massive price as well is a horse called Hassan Abad, who's moved to Ian Williams. He won a good race at Galway this time last year. Things didn't go his way last time at Haydock. I think he resented being held up, so he normally goes forward. So I think they'll revert to the old tactics here. A sounder surface will suit him, and I think he's got an each-way squeak at a massive price.
Great stuff. Yeah, big price there for Jack. Steve, what's your take on the race?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Jack said. I really liked the way Jeremiah won last time. For a 5-year-old, that was just his 10th run. He's obviously had training issues over the years. He's gone up £6 for that to 99. But when you think about it, he could well rate higher than that because he has had so little racing. I like him for Ascot. And I think Jim Crowley, I've heard it said both ways. I think he's still going well. I think he'll be right there. And I agree with what you say about Koeman as well. He needed that run, I think. He's coming back after 5 months off, I think it was. It should be a lot fitter. And I think I can't believe the price of Koeman, to be honest. I think that if it stays anything near 14-1 by the weekend, you've got to have a few quid on each way. Looking down there, we'll see how Omni Vega gets on. Been going really well on the all-weather. Another one coming back onto the turf. And you've got Haydock, who I thought was unlucky in the John Smith's Cup, and goes up in distance, which could help. But I quite fancy Jeremiah, and I think Koeman's a cracking each way price as well.
I think that race actually that Jeremiah won could be a really good bit of form. I think the second, that's Sam Cook, I think they like him because on his reappearance at Newmarket, he was really well punted. But my only reservation about Jeremiah was that was in the first time blinkers when he won there.
Yeah.
Just you're never quite sure how they're going to kind of take them second time around, whether it will have the same impact, which is why I'll probably side with Coleman at a bigger price. But I think that could be the key bit of form.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That Sam Cook was really well punted, wasn't it, at Newmarket? And the two pulled well clear, didn't they, last time? Charlie Fellows also seems to be banging in the winners. Can't seem to run without running well at the moment. So, yeah, you've got to have a big chance to Jeremiah. I'm going to stick with another big price horse we've not mentioned called Hyana. Georgie Adobe couldn't claim last time at a listed company. She gets that £5 claim back this time, just £3 higher than when winning at Windsor. quite impressively actually. Only 3 runners, but still won really well early in the season. And I still think she's got more to come over this trip. 1.5 miles seems to really suit her. And this kind of track going right-handed should suit her as well. So I'd be keen on Hyanna each way. And I'm looking forward to seeing how Omnivega handles the turf, having obviously improved so much on the weather recently. Great stuff, guys. Thanks very much. If I could nominate from both of you a best bet of the weekend, if that's all right. Jack, start with you. If you've got
I'll go for Coleman each way.
Great. Cheers, and Steve?
Given some of them are quite short, I'll go for Danilova at a fair price.
Danilova, lovely. I'm going to go with Hyanna each way in the 335s at Ascot. So, yeah. See how those gets on track, guys. Really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And, yeah, best of luck with your bets. And best of luck to you all at home this weekend. See you all soon.
Love it.